My stepfather showed up at my business at 8 a.m. with a locksmith. He announced, "Your mother sold me your company. You're fired." I arrived at Cascade Custom Furniture at 7:45 a.m. on Monday morning, carrying 2 coffees and a bagel, ready to finish the Westlake Hotel commission that would net us our biggest profit margin yet. The parking lot was empty except for my truck and a white van I didn't recognize. I unlocked the front door of the workshop, a converted warehouse in Seattle's Georgetown neighborhood that I'd transformed into a high-end furniture manufacturing space over the past 6 years. The smell of wood and varnish hit me immediately, familiar and comforting. I set my coffee on the desk in my office, booted up my laptop, and was reviewing the hotel's specifications when I heard a truck pull up outside. Through the window, I saw my stepfather, Gregory Thornton, climbing out of his Mercedes SUV. Behind him, a locksmith's van parked next to his vehicle. My stomach tightened. Gregory and I had barely spoken in the 3 years since he married my mother. He'd never visited my business. Ever. I walked to the front entrance as Gregory approached with a man carrying a toolbox and a drill. Gregory was dressed in an expensive suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression coldly professional. The locksmith looked uncomfortable, glancing between us. "Ethan," Gregory said, not offering a handshake. "We need to discuss the change in ownership." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" Gregory pulled a folder from under his arm and held it out. "Your mother sold me Cascade Custom Furniture. The sale was finalized Friday afternoon. As of this morning, I'm the owner and CEO. You're terminated, effective immediately." The words didn't make sense. I took the folder with numb fingers and opened it. Inside were legal documents with my mother's signature, a bill of sale transferring 100% ownership of my company to Gregory Thornton for the sum of $450,000. My company was worth at least $2 million, maybe more with our current contracts. "This is insane," I said. "Mom doesn't own my company. I own it." Gregory smiled slightly. "Check your corporate filing documents. Your mother is listed as majority shareholder with 62% ownership. You have 38%. The room tilted. That couldn't be right. I'd started this business from nothing, using a $50,000 loan from Mom 6 years ago when I was 24. We'd signed paperwork, but it was supposed to be a loan, not equity. "I need to talk to my mother," I said. Gregory's expression didn't change. "Your mother is unavailable. She's resting at our home in Bellevue. Now, I need you to hand over all keys, access codes, and company devices. The locksmith will change the locks immediately." I pulled out my phone and called Mom's cell. It went straight to voicemail. I tried her landline, the number she'd had for 20 years. No. Answer. I called her work number at the elementary school where she'd been a librarian for 15 years. The secretary answered. "Hi, Julie. Is Linda available?" There was a pause. "Oh, Ethan, didn't you hear? Your mom took a sudden medical leave on Friday. Something about exhaustion. Mr. Thornton called and said she needed rest." My chest constricted. "Medical leave? What happened?" Julie's voice lowered. "I don't know the details. Mr. Thornton came by Friday morning and spoke with Principal Davies. Your mom left right after lunch and hasn't been back. Is she okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Thanks, Julie." I hung up and looked at Gregory. "What medical leave? What happened to my mother?" Gregory's voice was calm, almost bored. "Your mother has been under significant stress. Her doctor recommended immediate rest. She's at home under my care." I felt rage building. "Let me talk to her. Now." Gregory shook his head. "She's sleeping. The doctor gave her sedatives. She'll be unavailable for several days." This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. I looked at the locksmith. "Don't touch anything. This is my business, and there's no legal sale." The locksmith glanced at Gregory. "Sir, I need to see proof that you're the owner before I can change locks on commercial property." Gregory handed him documents from the folder. The locksmith read them, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "This shows a sale, but I don't know if it's legitimate. Maybe you folks should sort this out before I do any work." Gregory's jaw tightened. "I'm paying you $200 to change 3 locks. Do your job." The locksmith hesitated, then started setting up his equipment. I called my business attorney, Nathan Cross, a solo practitioner who'd handled my incorporation paperwork. He answered on the second ring. "Nathan, I need help right now. I'm at my shop, and my stepfather showed up saying he owns my company." I explained everything rapidly. Nathan was silent for a moment. "Do you have copies of your original incorporation documents?" "I can access them, but not here. Gregory's changing the locks right now." Nathan's voice sharpened. "Do not let him change those locks. That's a hostile takeover. Call the police if necessary. Tell them someone is attempting to illegally seize your business." I looked at Gregory. "My attorney says you can't change the locks without a court order." Gregory pulled out his phone and made a call. Within 30 seconds, he had someone on speaker. A woman's voice came through. "This is Diane Rothstein with Rothstein & Associates. I'm Mr. Thornton's attorney. We have a legally executed bill of sale transferring ownership of Cascade Custom Furniture from Linda Thornton to Gregory Thornton. The transfer is valid and binding." Nathan was still on my phone. "This is Nathan Cross, attorney for Ethan Reeves, the actual owner of Cascade Custom Furniture. I'm advising my client that any transfer of ownership requires verification of the seller's authority and capacity to sell. If Mrs. Thornton didn't have legal ownership, the sale is void." Diane Rothstein's voice was sharp. Mrs. Thornton owns 62% of the company per the corporate documents filed with the state. She has every right to sell her shares. Nathan paused. I need to review those documents. Until then, no one is changing any locks. Gregory ended his call. He looked at the locksmith. Proceed. The locksmith looked miserable but started drilling the first lock. I stepped forward. Stop. I'm calling the police. Gregory didn't move. Go ahead. Call them. I'll show them my ownership documents and they'll ask you to leave. I dialed 911 and explained that someone was trying to illegally seize my business. The dispatcher said officers would arrive within 15 minutes. Gregory looked unconcerned. He walked through my workshop, examining equipment, touching my workbenches, opening drawers in my office. The casual invasion felt like a violation. I followed him. Get out of my office. Gregory turned. It's my office now. I suggest you collect your personal items and leave before the police arrive and remove you themselves. My hands shook with fury. You did something to my mother. Whatever papers she signed, she didn't understand what she was signing. Gregory's expression finally showed emotion. A flash of contempt. Your mother understood perfectly. She's tired of subsidizing your little hobby business. This place barely breaks even. I did the analysis. You're paying yourself $40,000 a year while working 80-hour weeks. That's poverty wages. She wanted her investment back and I provided an exit strategy. That was a lie. Cascade Custom Furniture grossed $380,000 last year. After materials, overhead, and my lead craftsman Aaron's salary, I'd paid myself $65,000. Not a fortune, but sustainable and growing. We had contracts lined up that would double revenue this year. I pulled up my business bank account on my phone and showed Gregory. We're profitable and growing. Mom knows that. She'd never sell without talking to me. Gregory glanced at the screen. Interesting. Then why does your corporate account show you transferred $50,000 to a personal cryptocurrency account last month? I stared at him. I didn't do any such thing. Gregory showed me his phone. A bank statement with my company's account number showing a $50,000 wire transfer to a crypto exchange, dated 3 weeks ago. My signature was on the authorization form. That's not my signature. I never made that transfer. Gregory smiled slightly. Your mother was quite upset when she discovered it. She considered it theft from the company. That's when she decided to sell to someone more trustworthy. My mind raced. Someone had forged my signature and created a fraudulent transfer. This was a setup. Nathan was still on my phone. I put him back on speaker. Nathan, Gregory is claiming I embezzled $50,000. I never made any. Crypto transfer. Someone forged this. Nathan's voice was tight. That's fraud. We need to report this to the police immediately. Save all documentation. 2 police officers arrived 15 minutes later. A male officer in his 40s and a younger female officer. Gregory immediately took control, handing them his ownership documents and explaining that he'd purchased the business from his wife, who owned the majority shares. He showed them the bank statement with the supposed embezzlement. The male officer looked at me. Sir, did you authorize this transfer? No, that's not my signature and I never accessed any cryptocurrency account. Someone forged that document. The female officer examined the paperwork. This is a civil matter. We can't determine ownership disputes. You'll need to resolve this in court. Gregory nodded. In the meantime, I'm the documented owner, and I'm asking him to leave my property. The male officer looked uncomfortable. Do you have documentation proving you own this business? I pulled up my incorporation documents on my phone, showing I was listed as the founder and owner. But when we compared them to Gregory's filing documents, there was a discrepancy. Gregory's version showed my mother as majority shareholder. My version showed me as sole owner. The female officer shook her head. You need to sort this out with attorneys. We can't enforce anything when both parties have conflicting documents. She looked at Gregory. Sir, I'd recommend not changing the locks until a judge makes a determination. Gregory considered this. Fine, but he's not to remove any equipment or files from the premises. The officers left. Gregory looked at me. You have until end of business today to clear out your personal items. Come Wednesday, if you're still here, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. He walked out to his Mercedes and drove away. The locksmith packed up his tools and left without changing anything. I stood alone in my workshop, surrounded by 6 years of work, trying to understand how everything had collapsed in 30 minutes. Nathan called me back. Ethan, I need you to get to the Secretary of State website right now. Pull your corporate filing history. I opened my laptop and accessed the state business registry. Cascade Custom Furniture showed multiple filings. The original incorporation from 6 years ago listed me as sole owner, but there was an amended filing from 18 months ago that I'd never seen before. It showed a restructuring where my mother, Linda Thornton, became majority shareholder with 62% ownership in exchange for her initial $50,000 investment plus ongoing financial support. My signature was on the amendment filing. That's not my signature, I told Nathan. I never filed any amendment. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Someone filed fraudulent documents with the state. That's a serious crime. We need to report this immediately and file an emergency petition to freeze any ownership transfers. He paused. But first, we need to find your mother and determine what she actually signed and whether she was competent to sign it. I tried calling Mom again. Voicemail. I called Mom's best friend, Patricia, who lived 2 blocks from Mom's house in Bellevue. Patricia answered immediately. Ethan, thank God. I've been trying to reach your mother all weekend. Have you heard from her? No. What happened? Patricia's voice was worried. I saw her Friday morning at yoga class. She seemed fine, maybe a little tired. We were supposed to have lunch Friday afternoon, but she canceled last minute. Sent me a text saying Gregory needed her home for something important. I've tried calling her all weekend and she won't answer. Her car is in the driveway, but nobody answers the door. My stomach dropped. Patricia, I need you to go to her house right now. Something's wrong. Gregory showed up at my business this morning saying Mom sold him my company. He claims she's on medical leave and sleeping. Under sedation. Patricia gasped. What? That's insane. Linda would never sell your business. She's so proud of what you built. Exactly. Can you check on her? I'm on my way there now, but it'll take me 40 minutes in traffic. Patricia agreed, and we hung up. I grabbed my laptop, my phone, and headed to my truck. On the drive to Bellevue, Nathan called back. I filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order against Gregory. The hearing is scheduled for Wednesday morning. We need your mother's testimony about what she signed and whether she understood it. I also need you to provide all your original corporate documents and any evidence that the amendments were fraudulent. I can do that, but I can't reach my mother. Gregory says she's sedated at his house. Nathan made a frustrated sound. That's concerning. If she was coerced or sedated when she signed the sale documents, that's grounds for voiding the entire transaction. We might need to file for a welfare check. I was crossing the Evergreen Point Bridge when Patricia called back. She was breathing hard. Ethan, I went to the house. I rang the doorbell for 5 minutes. Finally, Gregory answered. He told me Linda is resting and can't have visitors. I asked to see her and he refused. He said she's under doctor's orders for complete rest. I pushed past him into the house. Patricia's voice broke. Your mother was in the bedroom, lying on the bed. She looked drugged, Ethan. Her eyes were glazed and she barely recognized me. Gregory physically escorted me out and threatened to call the police if I came back. Terror washed through me. What doctor? Patricia, did you see a doctor there? No, it was just Gregory. I called 911 while driving and requested a welfare check on my mother. The dispatcher took the address and said officers would respond within the hour. I called Nathan back and told him everything. Nathan's voice was sharp. This is elder abuse. Your mother is 62, correct? Yes. She turned 62 in March. Nathan explained that Washington had strong elder abuse laws. If Gregory was medicating your mother without proper medical supervision or coercing her to sign documents while impaired, that's criminal. I'm filing an emergency petition for Adult Protective Services to investigate. The problem is, we need evidence that she's being harmed or impaired. I arrived at Mom's house in Bellevue 35 minutes later. It was a large craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood with mature trees. Mom had lived here for 8 years before she married Gregory 3 years ago. Gregory's Mercedes was in the driveway next to Mom's Toyota. I parked on the street and walked to the front door. Before I could knock, Gregory opened it. He looked calm and unbothered. Ethan, your mother is sleeping. Patricia's visit was disruptive and upset her. I'm asking you to leave. I need to see my mother. Now. Gregory blocked the doorway. She's under medical care. Her doctor prescribed sedatives for severe anxiety. She needs rest, not visitors who will agitate her. What doctor? Give me the doctor's name and number. Gregory's expression didn't change. Dr. Raymond Fletcher. He's her primary care physician. You can contact his office tomorrow during business hours. I pulled out my phone and searched for Dr. Fletcher. There were 3 doctors with that name in the Seattle area. Which one? Gregory smiled slightly. I'm not obligated to provide you with that information. You're not family. I'm her son. Gregory shook his head. You're her adult son, who's been accused of embezzling from the family business. Your mother is extremely stressed about your behavior. That's why I'm protecting her from further manipulation. The gaslighting was brazen. You forged documents. You created fake bank transfers. You're drugging my mother and stealing my company. Gregory's calm finally cracked. Lower your voice. You're on my property, and you're making accusations you can't prove. If you don't leave, I'll call the police for harassment. 2 police officers pulled up at that moment. The same female officer from my workshop and a different male officer. Gregory immediately adopted a concerned expression. Officers, thank you for coming. My wife is inside resting. She's been under medical care for severe anxiety. Her son has been harassing her and I need him removed from the property. The female officer looked at me. Sir, we're here for a welfare check on Linda Thornton. We need to see her and verify she's safe. Gregory hesitated. She's sleeping. The medication makes her groggy. I'd prefer not to wake her. The male officer was firm. We need to see her. It's standard procedure for welfare checks. Gregory reluctantly stepped aside. The officers went inside. I followed. Gregory tried to block me, but the female officer waved me through. This is her son. He has a right to see his mother during a welfare check. Mom's bedroom was on the 2nd floor. The officers knocked and entered. Mom was lying in bed wearing pajamas, her hair disheveled. Her eyes were half open but unfocused. The room smelled like medication and stale air. The curtains were drawn. Mom, it's Ethan. Are you okay? Mom's eyes moved toward me slowly. Her speech was slurred. Ethan? What are you doing here? The female officer knelt beside the bed. Mrs. Thornton, we're here to check on you. Are you safe? Do you need medical help? Mom looked confused. I'm just tired. Gregory said I need to rest. The officer exchanged glances with her partner. Ma'am, what medication are you taking? Mom fumbled for a pill bottle on the nightstand. The officer took it and read the label. This is Ambien. It's prescribed for nighttime sleep only. Ma'am, did you take this today? Mom looked at Gregory. He gives them to me. He says the doctor ordered them. The male officer turned to Gregory. What doctor prescribed daytime sedation? Gregory pulled out his phone and showed them a prescription. Dr. Fletcher prescribed it on Friday for acute anxiety. The label showed Linda Thornton, Ambien 10 milligrams. Take 1 tablet every 4 hours for severe anxiety. The female officer took a photo of the prescription. This is highly unusual. Ambien is a sleep medication, not an anti-anxiety medication, and every 4 hours is an excessive dose. She looked at Mom. Mrs. Thornton, do you remember signing any business documents on Friday? Mom's eyes closed and opened slowly. Gregory had papers. He said they were important. For Ethan's business. Something about helping Ethan. The officer made notes. Did you read the papers before signing? Mom shook her head slightly. Gregory said I needed to sign quickly. He said Ethan needed help. The male officer looked at Gregory. Sir, this appears to be a situation where your wife was heavily medicated and signed documents she didn't understand. That could constitute fraud and elder abuse. Gregory's lawyer voice activated. My wife made a competent business decision. The B medication was prescribed after she signed the documents, not before. She was anxious because of her son's financial impropriety. The officer wasn't convinced. We're going to recommend a medical evaluation. He called for an ambulance. Gregory protested. She doesn't need an ambulance. She needs rest. The female officer was firm. Sir, your wife has been given an inappropriate medication at an inappropriate dosage. That requires medical evaluation. Gregory's calm cracked further. This is harassment. I'm calling my attorney. He pulled out his phone and stepped into the hallway. The paramedics arrived 12 minutes later. They checked Mom's vital signs and level of consciousness. One paramedic, a woman in her 30s, examined the pill bottle and frowned. This is prescribed off-label and the dosing is dangerous. 4 hours between doses could cause oversedation and respiratory depression. She looked at Mom. Ma'am, we're taking you to Overlake Hospital for evaluation. Mom nodded weakly. The paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher. I followed them downstairs. Gregory stood in the living room with his phone to his ear, arguing with someone. As they wheeled Mom out, she reached for my hand. Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I squeezed her hand. It's okay, Mom. I'm going to fix this. At the hospital, they took Mom to the emergency department. I sat in the waiting room while they ran tests. Nathan called. Ethan, I heard about the ambulance. What happened? I explained everything. Nathan's voice was tight with anger. This is textbook elder abuse. Drugging her, isolating her, coercing her to sign documents while impaired. We have a strong case now. A doctor came out an hour later. A woman in her 50s with graying hair and tired eyes. Are you Ethan Reeves? I stood. Yes, that's me. She gestured to a private consultation room. I'm Dr. Amanda Price. Your mother is stable, but she's been significantly oversedated. The medication she was given is not appropriate for anxiety, and the dosing was potentially dangerous. We're keeping her overnight for observation and psychiatric evaluation. What psychiatric evaluation? Dr. Price looked at her notes. We need to assess whether she was coerced or manipulated. There are signs of possible financial abuse. The hospital social worker will interview her tomorrow morning. She looked at me. Did your mother have any cognitive issues or memory problems before this incident? No. She's sharp. She works full-time as a school librarian. She handles complex organization systems. Dr. Price nodded. That's what I thought. Her baseline cognitive function appears normal. The confusion we're seeing is entirely due to the medication. She should clear up within 24 hours. Can I see her? Not tonight. She needs rest. Come back tomorrow morning at 8. The social worker's name is Rebecca Holmes. She'll want to speak with you. I drove home to my apartment in Fremont, my mind spinning. I spent the night documenting everything. Timeline of events, copies of corporate documents, screenshots of the fraudulent bank transfer, photos of the prescription label, notes from every conversation. At 7 in the morning, I was back at the hospital. Mom was awake, sitting up in bed, looking more alert. Her eyes were clear and focused. Ethan. She reached for me, and I hugged her carefully. Mom, what happened? Mom's voice was shaky but coherent. Gregory had me sign papers on Friday afternoon. He said you'd gotten into financial trouble, that you'd taken money from the business for gambling debts. He said I needed to sell the company to pay off your debts, or you'd face criminal charges. My chest tightened. I don't have gambling debts. I've never gambled in my life. Mom nodded. I know that now. But he showed me bank statements showing transfers to offshore accounts. He had documents that looked official. He said he'd verified everything and I needed to act immediately to protect you. He told me if I talked to you first, you'd lie and manipulate me. The manipulation was systematic and cruel. What about the pills? Mom looked down. He said they were anti-anxiety medication from Dr. Fletcher. I was so stressed about you that I didn't question it. He gave me one Friday night, then again Saturday morning, then every few hours after that. I felt foggy and confused, but he kept saying it was normal. When Patricia came yesterday, I could barely focus. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't think clearly. Rebecca Holmes, the hospital social worker, arrived at 8:30. She was a black woman in her 40s with a kind but professional manner. She interviewed Mom privately for an hour, then called me in. Mr. Reeves, your mother has described a clear pattern of financial exploitation and coercion. She was deliberately misled about your financial situation, shown fraudulent documents, and pressured to sign paperwork she didn't understand. She was then medicated to prevent her from reversing the decision or seeking help. This constitutes elder financial abuse under Washington law. Rebecca looked at her notes. I'm filing a mandatory report with Adult Protective Services. They'll investigate immediately. Additionally, the hospital's risk management team is reviewing the prescription that was supposedly issued by Dr. Fletcher. We have concerns it may be fraudulent. Nathan arrived at the hospital at 9. He reviewed everything with Mom, Rebecca, and me. Mom signed a sworn statement describing exactly what Gregory had told her and how he'd manipulated her into signing the sale documents. Nathan filed an amended emergency motion that morning, including Mom's statement and the hospital's medical documentation. The hearing was still set for Wednesday at 10. Gregory's attorney, Diane Rothstein, filed a counter-motion claiming Mom was competent when she signed and that she was now being manipulated by me to reverse a legitimate business decision. By Monday evening, the situation had escalated into a full legal battle. Nathan worked with Adult Protective Services investigator Thomas Whitfield, a veteran investigator with 23 years of experience. Thomas interviewed Mom at the hospital, reviewed all documents, and visited Mom's house to inspect the medication bottles. On Tuesday morning, Thomas called Nathan. We have evidence of a fraudulent prescription. Dr. Raymond Fletcher confirmed he never prescribed Ambien to Linda Thornton and never saw her on Friday. Someone created a fake prescription with his name and DEA number. That's prescription fraud and potentially practicing medicine without a license. Nathan filed criminal complaints with the Seattle Police Department for prescription fraud, elder financial abuse, and forgery. Detective Lisa Wong was assigned to the case. She moved quickly, obtaining warrants for Gregory's phone records, financial records, and the pharmacy where the prescription was allegedly filled. The pharmacy confirmed they never filled any prescription for Linda Thornton for Ambien. The pills Gregory gave Mom came from somewhere else. Wednesday morning arrived. The hearing was in King County Superior Court, with Judge David Brennan presiding. Gregory sat with Diane Rothstein at the defendant's table, looking confident and composed. Mom sat with me and Nathan at the plaintiff's table. She looked exhausted, but determined. Judge Brennan was a man in his 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. He reviewed the filings before calling the hearing to order. The complexity here is significant. We have a sale transaction that appears legally executed, but allegations of fraud and coercion. Ms. Rothstein, present your case. Diane Rothstein stood. Your Honor, this is a straightforward business transaction between spouses. Linda Thornton, as majority shareholder of Cascade Custom Furniture, sold her shares to her husband Gregory Thornton. The sale was executed with proper documentation, witnessed signatures, and fair market. Consideration. The fact that Mrs. Thornton now regrets her decision doesn't invalidate the transaction. Judge Brennan looked at the documents. The sale price was $450,000 for a business valued at over $2 million. How is that fair market consideration? Diane Rothstein didn't hesitate. The business has significant debt and limited profitability. Mr. Thornton's valuation assessment determined $450,000 was appropriate given the risk factors. Judge Brennan turned to Nathan. Mr. Cross, your response? Nathan stood and presented methodically. Your Honor, Mrs. Thornton was deliberately deceived about the nature of the transaction. She was told she was signing documents to protect her son from criminal prosecution, not to sell his business. She was shown fraudulent bank records indicating embezzlement that never occurred. After signing, she was given prescription medication under false pretenses to prevent her from reversing the decision. Nathan introduced Mom's sworn statement, the hospital's medical report, Dr. Fletcher's statement denying the prescription, and the pharmacy's confirmation that they never filled it. This is systematic elder financial abuse, Your Honor. Mrs. Thornton was targeted, manipulated, and drugged to facilitate theft of her son's business. Judge Brennan's expression darkened as he reviewed the evidence. He looked at Gregory. Mr. Thornton, where did you obtain the Ambien you gave your wife? Gregory stood. My attorney advised me not to answer questions that might incriminate me. Judge Brennan's voice hardened. This is a civil proceeding, but your refusal to answer is noted. He looked at Diane Rothstein. Does your client have any explanation for the fraudulent prescription? Diane Rothstein looked uncomfortable. Your Honor, the prescription issue is a separate matter being investigated by law enforcement. It doesn't affect the validity of the sale documents. Judge Brennan shook his head. It absolutely affects validity. If Mrs. Thornton was medicated to prevent her from reversing her decision, that speaks directly to duress and coercion. He called Mom to testify. Mom took the stand and described everything clearly. Gregory told me Ethan had gambling debts. He showed me bank statements with transfers to offshore gambling sites. He said he'd consulted with attorneys, and the only way to prevent criminal prosecution was to sell the business immediately and use the proceeds to pay the debts. Judge Brennan interrupted. Did you verify these claims with your son? Mom shook her head. Gregory said I couldn't talk to Ethan because he would manipulate me. He said I had to act immediately, or Ethan would be arrested that weekend. He made it seem urgent and terrifying. Did you understand you were selling your son's business? Mom's voice broke. No, I thought I was signing paperwork to protect him. Gregory kept using phrases like financial restructuring and debt resolution. He never said the words, selling the company, until after I'd signed everything. Then he gave me the pills, and I couldn't think clearly enough to fix it. Judge Brennan looked at the fraudulent bank statements. Mr. Reeves, are these your signatures on these transfer authorizations? I stood. No, Your Honor. Those aren't my signatures, and I never made those transfers. Someone forged them. Nathan presented a handwriting analysis we'd commissioned overnight. The analyst, a certified forensic document examiner named Dr. Philip Crane, testified that the signatures on the transfer documents were not mine. The stroke patterns, pressure points, and letter formations were inconsistent with my verified signatures. Dr. Crane had 30 years of experience and had testified in over 200 cases. Your Honor, in my professional opinion, these signatures were forged by someone attempting to replicate Mr. Reeves's signature style, but lacking his natural hand movement patterns. Judge Brennan examined the analysis. Who had access to samples of Mr. Reeves's signature? Dr. Crane nodded toward Gregory. Anyone with access to his corporate documents or contracts could obtain signature samples for replication. Judge Brennan looked at Gregory. Mr. Thornton, did you have access to your stepson's signature samples? Gregory's attorney objected. Your Honor, my client is not required to answer questions that could incriminate him in ongoing criminal investigations. Judge Brennan's patience was visibly thinning. Your client is accused of forging documents to defraud both his wife and stepson. His refusal to cooperate is noted. He reviewed all the evidence for several minutes, then looked up. I'm issuing an immediate restraining order against Gregory Thornton. He is prohibited from accessing, managing, or transferring any assets of Cascade Custom Furniture. The sale transaction is void due to fraud, duress, and lack of informed consent. He looked at Gregory. Mr. Thornton, you are ordered to return all keys, access codes, and documentation related to Cascade Custom Furniture to Ethan Reeves by end of business today. Judge Brennan wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm ordering a forensic audit of all financial transactions related to this matter. The court appoints Jennifer Moss, CPA, as special master to examine all bank records, corporate filings, and financial documents. Ms. Moss will report her findings within 30 days. He looked at Mom. Mrs. Thornton, I'm also ordering a comprehensive review of your corporate ownership structure. You may need legal counsel separate from both your husband and your son to determine your actual equity position in the company. Mom nodded. Your Honor, I need to clarify something. I gave Ethan $50,000 6 years ago. I told him it was a loan to help him start the business. I never asked for equity. I never wanted ownership. I just wanted to help my son. Judge Brennan looked at me. Mr. Reeves, do you have documentation of this loan? I pulled out copies of the original promissory note. Mom and I had signed it 6 years ago, specifying the $50,000 as a 5-year loan at 3% interest. I'd paid her back in full 2 years ago, with interest, all documented through bank transfers. Judge Brennan examined the documents. So Mrs. Thornton has no actual ownership stake in the company. The amended corporate filing claiming she owns 62% is fraudulent. Nathan stood. Correct, Your Honor. Someone filed fraudulent amendments to create the appearance of ownership, enabling the fraudulent sale. Judge Brennan's expression was cold fury. Mr. Thornton, the evidence suggests you engaged in a complex fraud scheme involving forgery, identity theft, elder abuse, and theft of business assets. I'm referring this entire matter to the King County Prosecutor's Office for Criminal Investigation. Diane Rothstein tried to salvage something. Your Honor, my client maintains his innocence and believes the transaction was legitimate. Judge Brennan cut her off. Your client drugged his wife with fraudulent prescription medication to prevent her from reversing a fraudulent business transaction based on forged documents. There's nothing legitimate here. The hearing ended. Gregory left the courtroom without looking at anyone. Mom hugged me in the hallway. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I should have called you immediately when Gregory showed me those papers. I held her. You were manipulated by someone you trusted. That's not your fault. Over the next 3 weeks, the investigation expanded rapidly. Detective Wong obtained warrants for Gregory's computer and phone. The forensic examination revealed extensive evidence. Gregory had created the fraudulent bank statements using accounting software, forged my signature using digital signature tools, and filed the fraudulent corporate amendments through an online legal service. The prescription for Ambien came from an online pharmacy operating illegally, without proper medical oversight. Gregory had used a fake DEA number and Dr. Fletcher's stolen identity. The pharmacy was shut down, and the operators were arrested separately. Detective Wong also discovered this wasn't Gregory's first attempt at financial fraud. He had a history of targeting wealthy spouses and isolated elderly individuals. 2 previous wives had filed restraining orders against him for financial manipulation. One case had been settled quietly to avoid publicity. Jennifer Moss, the court-appointed forensic accountant, completed her audit. Her report was devastating for Gregory. She traced over $200,000 that Gregory had hidden in offshore accounts, money he'd embezzled from Mom's retirement savings over the 3 years of their marriage. He'd systematically transferred funds from Mom's investment accounts to cryptocurrency wallets, then converted them to cash through complex laundering schemes. Mom had no idea until the audit revealed it. The prosecutor's office filed criminal charges. Gregory was arrested on 12 counts, including elder abuse, prescription fraud, identity theft, forgery, theft, and money laundering. His bail was set at $500,000. He couldn't make bail and remained in custody. Nathan filed a civil lawsuit on behalf of both Mom and me, seeking return of the stolen funds, damages, and attorney fees. Gregory's assets were frozen pending resolution. Diane Rothstein withdrew as his attorney, citing ethical conflicts. Gregory's trial was scheduled for 6 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecutor, Eleanor Vance, was a veteran with a near-perfect conviction rate. She presented the case methodically, walking the jury through each element of Gregory's fraud scheme. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found Gregory guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was in December. Judge Brennan presided again. Gregory stood in an orange jumpsuit, his silver hair disheveled, his confidence completely gone. Judge Brennan reviewed the sentencing report. Mr. Thornton, you targeted a vulnerable woman who trusted you. You manipulated her to steal from her son. You forged documents, created fraudulent prescriptions, and embezzled hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your actions represent a profound betrayal of trust and a systematic exploitation of your position as a spouse. He paused. The sentencing guidelines suggest 8 to 12 years. I'm sentencing you to 12 years in state prison with no possibility of early release. You'll also pay full restitution of $700,000, covering the stolen funds, legal fees, and damages to both victims. Gregory's face was ashen. His attorney made a weak appeal for leniency based on his age. Gregory was 63. Judge Brennan was unmoved. Mr. Thornton used his age and sophistication to prey on others. His age doesn't mitigate his crimes. It aggravates them. He should have known better. The marshals led Gregory away. Mom and I left the courthouse together. The rain had cleared, an afternoon sun broke through the clouds. Mom filed for divorce immediately. The proceedings were fast because Gregory couldn't contest anything from prison. The divorce was final in 90 days. Mom sold the Bellevue house and moved to a smaller condo in Kirkland, closer to the school where she worked. She kept teaching and rebuilding her finances. The restitution payments came slowly as Gregory's assets were liquidated, but eventually Mom recovered most of her stolen retirement savings. I returned to Cascade Custom Furniture the day after Judge Brennan's initial ruling. The workshop felt different, violated somehow, but also mine again. Aaron, my lead craftsman, had kept the business running during the crisis. We completed the Westlake Hotel commission on time and used the profit to expand into 3 new product lines. Revenue doubled within a year. Nathan became not just my attorney but a close friend. He refused payment for his work on the case, saying some fights matter more than money. I paid him anyway, once the business stabilized. Professor Moss, the forensic accountant, joined our board of advisors and helped me implement better corporate governance and financial controls. 3 years after that morning when Gregory showed up with a locksmith, Cascade Custom Furniture had 16 employees, annual revenue of $2.4 million, and contracts with hotels and restaurants across the Pacific Northwest. Mom and I had dinner every Sunday. We never talked about Gregory except when legal matters required it. The betrayal left scars, but they faded. We focused on the future instead of the past. On the morning of my 33rd birthday, I arrived at the workshop at 7:30. The parking lot had 5 vehicles now, including Aaron's truck and our delivery van. The sign above the entrance, Cascade Custom Furniture, handcrafted excellence, since 2018, gleamed in the early sunlight. I unlocked the front door and walked into the space that smelled of wood and varnish and possibility. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Proud of you every day. I smiled and got to work, building something real with my own hands, on my own terms, in a business nobody could ever take away again. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.